In this video, I'm going to break down what the this keyword represents in JavaScript. This might be a very confusing topic, especially when you are a beginner or when you are coming from a different programming language such as Java or C#. In JavaScript, the this keyword is a reference to the current execution context, and this is often determined by how a function is called. So in this video, we are going to be looking at the different contexts in which the this keyword can be used. So we are going to be looking at the global context, the function context, which contains different bits of context. So we have the function invocation context, the method invocation context, the constructor invocation context, and finally we are going to be looking at the most interesting part, which is how the this keyword behaves in arrow functions. So let's get right into it. Hey guys, welcome to Tech Ginger. My name is Nunya, and today we are going to be looking at the this keyword in JavaScript. So if you are coming from a different language such as Java or C#, then you already understand how the this keyword works. In these languages, it refers to the current instance of a class, but then in JavaScript, the story is different. So let's dive into some code. In JavaScript, the this keyword is a reference to the current execution context, which is determined by how a function is called. The value of this is not fixed. It depends on the invocation context of the function. What this simply means is that the this keyword value depends on where you call a function, right? So you can call a function in different parts of your code, and you can call the this keyword in different parts of your code. So the this keyword behaves according to where you call it at in your code. So let's look at the this keyword in the global context. So when used outside of any function, the this keyword refers to the global object. In a browser environment, the global object is usually the window object. So I'm going to write some code now. So if I console.log this, then we are going to see the window object printed out over here. So the window object contains different kinds of fields and properties and methods that you can use when you're coding. So let me show you some examples of that. So it contains add event listener, alerts, and other cool things that you can use when you're coding. So the this keyword, when used outside of a function, refers to the global object, and inside a browser, the global object is the window object. Let's move to the next one. So the next one is the this keyword being used inside a function context. Now in a function, the value of this depends on how the function is called. I said that earlier. There are several ways to invoke a function, each affecting the value of the this keyword. Now you can invoke a function by the normal function invocation, by method invocation, by a constructor invocation, and all of that. So let's dive into it. The first one we are going to look at is the function invocation. So I'm going to create a function. Let me call this example function, and then we are going to console.log this. Now, okay, let me call the function, and let's see what we get. So over here, you are going to get the window object. This is because the this keyword inside a function also refers to the, so it references the context in which the function is called, right? So we have this function which is inside the global context, so we are going to get the window object printed out. Okay, I hope you got that. So let's move on to the most interesting parts of how the this keyword behaves, and that is inside a method invocation. So over here, I'm going to create a student object, and I'm going to give it three properties. The first one is its name, which is John. The second one, its age, 18, and then the third one, we are going to create a function getName. Say function, and then let's say, okay, let's just do something simple. Let's say console.log this.name. Right, so if I call this function, before I call that, I want us to look at this. When a function is a property of an object, it is invoked as a method of that object. This refers to the object containing the method. So the easy way to think about this is you have an object and you have a method inside. By the way, side note, if you are having a function which is associated with an object, it is better to call that a method. I know people use the method keyword and the function keyword interchangeably, but then it makes sense to call a function that is inside an object a method, right? So what I was trying to say is that when a function is a property of an object or is invoked as a method of an object, this refers to the object containing the method. So the easy way to think about this is that if you have an object and you have a function inside and you use this keyword inside that function, then the this keyword is referring to that particular object in which you called the function. Okay, so let me print that out. So if I say student.getName and invoke this, then we are going to get John, because John is a property of this object. So the this keyword inside this method invocation is referring to its associated objects. I hope that makes sense. But let me give you an example and let me see if you really understood what I said. So if I say const student2 is equal to name, let's call this guy Frank. I can't type, and the age is 20 years, and then let's say get name is function, and then we are going to say console.log this name. I know you have already guessed that if I call this function get name of student2, then we are going to get Frank, right? So if I do get name, then we are going to get Frank. Okay, we already know that. But then let's do something a bit different and let me see if you really got this. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say let's get name equals to student2 dot get name. Okay, now let me create a different. Okay, let me use const. Let me say student3 because this is another object we are creating. So this student is Mercy, and then age 23, and then we are going to say get name. So essentially what we have done is that we are assigning this function to the variable get name, and we are using get name over here. So if I should come down here and do student3 dot get name, before I let you see what it prints out, I want you to guess what the answer is going to be. What do you think is going to be? Is it going to be Messi or is it going to be Frank? So time of truth, let me print this out, and then we get Messi. This is because this get name function belongs to the student3 object. So if I call this dot name on this student3, and I'm going to get Messi. Remember we referenced this function over here and we assigned it to this get name. So at this point, get name is a function of the student3 object. So that's why we are getting Messi. So an easy way to remember this is that anytime you have this type of situations, let's look at the left side of the dot. What object is there? Over here we can see that student3 is there. Oh, that means we are going to get Messi. Over here at the left side of the dot we can see that student2 is there. That means we are going to get what? Frank. Student2 has the property Frank, so we are going to get Frank. So that's an easy way to remember what the this keyword would output when you have this type of situation. So just look at the left side of the dot, and then you are going to have the object name over there, and then you can say that okay, this property belongs to this object, so we are going to get this output. I hope that makes sense. So let's move to the next one, which is the constructor invocation, and this is more similar to other programming languages and how they behave. So the this keyword inside a constructor invocation refers to the instance of a class. So let's look at that. So I'm going to define this class over here. So class, I'm going to use student again. I like student. And then we are going to say I'm creating a constructor which takes a name and an age. So basically what I'm doing is that anytime I create a student instance, I have to provide it with a name and an age. I hope you guys got that. So I'm going to create two properties, this dot name, and then say name equals to name, and then this dot age equals to age. So basically what I'm doing is that because the student class takes in two arguments, or let me say, yeah, two properties, name and age, I'm saying this instance or this property name equals to whatever the person passes in, and then this dot age equals to age. Now let me go down here and say and create a method inside this class, get name, and say console.log this dot name. So we want to basically print out the property name of this class, this dot name, right? We want to print out the name property of this class student. So if I come here and I should say const student, how many students do we have now? Okay, this will be the fourth time. Const student 4 equals to new student. So I'm using a new keyword over here, and I say the first student's name is Kofi and his age is 20, right? If I should do student 4 dot get name, then we should have printed in the console Kofi, because in this current instance Kofi is the name of the student 4. Do you get it? So this is how this keyword works inside the constructor invocation. So if you invoke a method inside a class, then this keyword refers to the current instance of that class. So just for example's sake, I'm going to create a student 5. I'm going to say new student, give this guy's name Jake, and say he's 45 years. That's a very outrageous age. And then I'm going to do student 5 dot get name, and then we get Jake. Okay, for this instance, let me do student 5 dot get age, and then we are going to get, oh sorry, I don't have any method get age. So if I do a method, if I create a method get age over here, and I say console dot log this dot age, then if I do student 5 dot get age over here, then I'm going to get 45, which is the age of student 5, who is Jake. So I hope you guys got that right. So that's how this keyword works inside a constructor invocation. If you invoke a method inside a class, then this is how this keyword is going to behave. So let's move on to the last part, which is the most interesting part, which is arrow functions. But before that, guys, so if you are learning from this video, if you are getting valuable content from this video, then kindly click on the like button so that this video is being shared or is being suggested to other YouTube users who watch this content. So it's going to help me push my channel, and the YouTube algorithm is going to like me. So if you're also taking value from this video, kindly subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I'm waiting for you. Let's do it. Good. Thank you very much for subscribing. I'm going to be posting more of this. So let's get right back into the code. So we have here arrow functions. So how does this keyword work in arrow functions? So arrow functions do not have their own this context. Instead, they inherit this value from the enclosing scope. In an arrow function, the value of this is lexically scope. That means arrow functions do not have their own this context. So arrow functions are not bound to their own this context. But what they do is that they take the value of the this from the enclosing scope. So whatever you put the arrow function inside, that represents its this value. So let's take a look at an example. So I'm going to create an arrow function over here. Const example arrow function equals to First of all, let me console.log, keep on mistyping this. Now what we are going to get, oh, I've not called the example function. I nearly had a heart attack. Example function, and then we get the window object. So as I said, the arrow functions don't have their own disk context, so they reference the disk context of the enclosing scope. So this arrow function is inside the global scope, therefore we get the window object. Remember the first example that I did this. So inside this global scope we get a window object. So because this arrow function is inside the global scope, we get the window object for the arrow function. Now let's take a look at a more complex example. So I'm going to say const person. I'm creating a person object and giving it a bit of property. So I'm going to say John, and then the last name is going to be Doe. Okay, Doe. So I'm going to write a regular function inside this. So let me say regular method, and this is going to be a function that says okay, let's say console.log. I haven't put a comma over here. Console.log, let me just say regular method and say this dot first name comma this dot last name, right? And then I'm going to say arrow method. So over here we have an arrow function inside an object, and let's see how this behaves. Okay, so I'm going to say console.log, and then I'm going to be like arrow method, and then I'm going to be like, basically let me just do the same thing. This dot first name, this dot last name, and then put a comma over here so that this stops complaining. And then I'm going to be like person dot regular method, invoke that, and then we get regular method John Doe, right? So the first name over here is John and the last name over here is Doe. So over here we have a regular method, and this works like how a normal regular method would actually reference to its containing objects over here, as I taught you earlier on. So because this regular method is associated with this object, we get John and we get Doe. But then let's invoke this arrow method and let's see what we get. So if I invoke the arrow method and say person dot arrow method, invoke this, then we are going to get arrow method undefined. That is because this dot first name is undefined. This arrow method is not bound to any disk keyword. So this dot first name is undefined, as well as this dot last name is undefined. So that is how the disk keyword works with arrow functions. So I hope you learned something. In the next video, we are going to be looking at carrying in JavaScript. Kindly subscribe, like, comment, and tell me what you want to see in the next video, and I'll see you in that one.